Hi everyone, welcome to Cloud on Air. My name is Jay Jenkins. I'm a customer engineer based in Singapore. Earlier today, Win Wu talked to you about Cloud Spanner, and I talked to you about how to be serverless on Google Cloud Platform. In this session, KJ Pittle is going to be talking to you about machine learning and how you can use machine learning to build your own chatbot. KJ Pittle has 20 years of experience in IT, started out on a mainframe, went to application development, then to analytics, and now into machine learning. Remember that at any time you can ask a question below, and we have technical experts ready to answer. So with that, I'll hand it to KJ in Australia.
Thanks, Jay, and welcome to Sydney. Behind me, you can see the beautiful Bondi Beach, or the place that I'd rather be, or hopefully will be in about an hour. But right now, we're talking about machine learning introduction, and then we're going to do a deep dive into API.AI for conversational engines or chatbots. So what are machine learning services for Google or on GCP? Well, we got these ready-to-use machine learning models that you can just use as an API, and you won't even know that you're using machine learning. So at the moment, we have 6 APIs, two of them recently launched, which is the Video Intelligence API, as well as the Cloud Jobs API. You probably already know the Cloud Vision API, Speech API, as well as the Google Cloud Translation API. On top of that, you can obviously build your own machine learning models using TensorFlow, which Google has open sourced. And to do that, you can use a fully managed TensorFlow environment, which is called the Google Cloud Machine Learning Engine. And today, I want to actually deep dive into API.AI, a recent acquisition by Google, which allows you to use the NLP API interactively and build your own chatbots just by basically plug and play. Why are we doing all this? Why are we looking into machine learning, and why are we looking into these APIs? Well, a lot of customers or a lot of organizations actually have more unstructured data than they have structured data. What are we talking about when we're saying unstructured data? Well, we're talking about images as well as text documents or speech, so voice. Just to give you a little bit of statistics, like every day there's 2 billion pictures being taken on mobile phones or cameras. There's 2 million blog posts being posted every day. And we also have about 400 million social media posts. So this is all data that you want to make sense of, that you want to get into a structured format in order to make use of it. Google already does this in a lot of their products, and you're probably using machine learning already without knowing it. So let's say you're on YouTube and you're actually looking at your favorite movie, and you will see recommendations on the site. So these recommendations are all driven by machine learning. So I'm going to start with the latest one, or with the coolest one in my opinion. So this is the Cloud Video Intelligence API, which has just been launched and is currently in private beta. What does that allow you to do? So the Video Intelligence API allows you to detect labels. So you can basically tell in a video for each of the frames, is this a cat? Is this a dog that I can see in the video? Do I see cars, elephants? You can also see, you also have facial detection, as well as video segmentation. But I don't want to talk too long about it. I actually just want to show you how it actually works. So here's a quick demo for you, my first demo for today. So we have here a library of about 2,000 videos. All of these videos ran through the Video Intelligence API, and we've extracted all the metadata around it. So this allowed us now to build this really cool interface where you can look at videos. So let's just take the first video here. We're looking at it, and if we scroll down here, we see at the bottom the different labels. Computer's a bit stuck. So you can see all the different labels that it's found. So for example, here it found a wedding cake, and I can click on it, and the video will actually go straight to that shot. This also allows you to do really cool searches. So you can go search for beach. Okay, so now I don't only have all the videos back at me here that have a beach in them, but I also see exactly where the beach is. So I can actually click on these annotations here, and it will go straight in the video to the section where the beach is. I missed it there, but let's just try it here as well. So that would allow you to take a video library from your organization and actually turn it into discoverable content. So let's go back to the presentation and look at the other APIs that we have. So apart from the Video Intelligence API, just a very quick, before we move on to the next API, there is a really good white paper that I want to bring to your attention, which outlines how you can actually build a YouTube recommendation engine, or an engine that's similar to the YouTube. And here's an architecture that you could use on the Google Cloud Platform in order to build your own machine learning model to do that. And here the link to the white paper. So the next API that I want to talk about is the Cloud Vision API. So the Cloud Vision API does a very similar thing to the Cloud Video Intelligence API. It basically does label detection, safe search, and it also has a few additional features that the Video Intelligence API doesn't have yet. That's, for example, landmark detection, OCR, so text detection, and it will also give you logos, so common brands and logos. Of course, we have a demo for that as well. So in this particular case, what we had is we've indexed 80,000 images that have just been taken from the web, and we put them, we labeled all of them, and we put the labels together in a word cloud. So now we're looking at the word cloud, and we can actually drill down to the individual pictures. So let's look at the picture of a cat, for example. So by clicking on this link, it will actually drill down to the cluster of images of cats. And you can see a few other cats coming up in the background. And it will tell you not only that it is a cat, but it will tell you the actual breed of the cat. So this is a British short hair. And the color, as well as safe search information at the bottom. Now this is a picture of a cat. I can't really do much more with this, but let's say I actually want to look at a landmark. So here I got a picture of a baseball stadium in the States. So this is the Citi Field baseball stadium. Again, I'm getting all the label detections, sports, athlete, looks all very good to me. It also extracts all the text that it sees on the billboards in the background. Further, I can actually see down here the sentiment analysis, as well as the latitude and longitude where this actual location is. So this is pretty cool and can be used to enrich your data. One last example for this one is also about sentiment analysis of faces. So this is a picture of a group of people. And if you scroll down, you will actually see that you get a sentiment analysis for each of these people in the pictures. OK, with that, we go back to the presentation, looking at more APIs. The next one that's just been recently launched is the Cloud Jobs API. Now, the Cloud Jobs API is a very targeted API for the talent industry, and probably gives you a good idea of what's to come with machine learning. So there's going to be lots more targeted services for industries. The features for the Job API is basically to understand job descriptions with resumes. So you want to match them together, and for that you can use the Jobs API really nicely. I don't have any demos for the next few APIs because they're all very similar. So the Cloud Speech API is, again, very similar to the Vision API and the Video API. We're just talking about a different input now. So instead of a video, we now actually instead of a video or an image, we're now actually looking at an audio file or voice commands. So what does the Speech API do? The Speech API basically translates from a voice to text. You can do this in a streaming environment, or in a batch environment, and it will automatically filter noise in the background and gives you inappropriate content filtering as well. One very, very related API to the Speech API is the Natural Language API. They're normally used in combination. The Natural Language API gives you sentiment analysis and structure of the content that you give it. So the input here is text, and the output here is sentiment analysis, as well as recognition of the structure of the text, so text analysis. There has been a release yesterday where the sentiment has actually been improved. So basically now I can say to the NLP API, okay, I found this new phone, it's really expensive, but the battery life is much better. So it will actually now distinguish and say, okay, I have a positive sentiment for the battery life, but I have a negative sentiment for the phone. So this is really, really helpful to understand what your users are saying. Currently, we are supporting English, Spanish, and Japanese for the NLP API, but there is a lot more languages to come and to be released soon. The probably oldest and most known API in the machine learning API range is the Cloud Translation API. Now, the Cloud Translation API has been used for many, many years, and there's about 1,000 language pairs available now. It allows you to translate text from one language in the other language in real time without any intermediate steps. There have been quite, if you've used the translation API before, you will know that there's been quite some improvements in it. And these improvements come from neural networks. So before in the first generation of translation, we did a lot of rule-based translation models. Now it's more about neural networks that do the machine translation. So if you can see here, so you have the Spanish text and you have the two different versions, and you will see that the new version is actually much better. Now, the good thing about the translation API is that it actually learns every day. So it learns from log files, it learns from translations that have been provided, it learns over time. So it will just get better. So this concludes all of our pre-trained machine learning models. And I'm now going to deep dive into API.AI. So what's natural language processing? So with natural language processing, what I'm trying to do is actually understand what a user is saying to me in a way that I can translate it into something actionable. So I want to take some unstructured text and translate it into an action that a user wants to do and filter out the parameters that I need to understand that action. So for example, I could say to a system, I would like to order a pizza. On the pizza, I want bacon and cheese, and I want it to be a small one with a standard crust. Or actually, no, I thought about it. I want it to be a large pizza. So there's all these different parameters that are set in one sentence that a system has to understand. So first of all, I need to understand what is the intent that the user wants to do. Well, the user wants to order pizza. That's pretty easy, but then the next thing I also want to know straight away is, okay, what toppings do they want on there, which size it is, and what crust do they want? So all this in one sentence, and that's quite difficult to do for a system. So it's very important to understand what a natural language processing agent can and can't do. Okay, so the main idea behind it is that you have to understand it understands language, but it doesn't necessarily understand your domain or your particular dictionary of the business. So you need to train it on your language. You need to train it that pizzas have toppings. You need to train it which toppings that you have in your business. But the key benefits of it is that you have one engine and any sort of input. So you can basically embed it text input, text output. And then what you put in front and after the natural language engine is totally up to you. So just to reiterate this, and a sort of a user flow could look like this. So you basically, you use inputs via keyboard or microphone, so text or speech. This query is then sent to the API.AI platform that translates it into an intent. This intent may or may not trigger a webhook, so a fulfillment in the background. So, like for example, once you know exactly what pizza the user wants, you actually want to fulfill that ordering process. You want to send that to your system. So this is where the webhooks and external fulfillment service comes in. Once you know all this, then you have actionable data, which is usually a user response, a text response, that you can then send back out through your output methods, which could be anything, again, like could be a phone, could be a chat box, could be Facebook Messenger, could be anything. So very convoluted here, this slide, but it just sort of illustrates the omni-channel architecture of an implementation with a natural language agent like API.AI. So again, it doesn't matter where your input comes from. Is it a website? Is it a Google Assistant device? Is it an integration with social media? Or is it standard like voice calls or text messages? All of it gets translated to text, gets fed to the NL agent, and then depending on your fulfillment service, again, that could live on-premise, could live on GCP, or anywhere in any API available. API.AI has a cross-platform support. So there is a lot of integrations that you can enable with the click of a button. So here's an excerpt of those. And you can see on here not only like the standard social media channels like Facebook Messenger. You can also see at the very bottom that we have Amazon Alexa and Microsoft Cortana here. So you can see that Google and Google will further support this. API.AI has been an acquisition, and it just goes along the line that we are supporting an agnostic cloud. So we're going to dive into our demo now. So this is going to be a live demo, so please bear with me. And this is basically what we're going to build. So we're going to build a little chatbot for a shopping experience. So basically what I'm trying to build is a tool that basically says to me, okay, what do you want? What would you like to buy? I would like to buy shoes. What kind of shoes? What color? And let's see if we can build this in the next 10 minutes. Before we just jump into the demo itself, I just have a couple more slides, just like talking about a few more terminologies. Okay, one important terminology when you're building a chatbot is a chatbot query. Okay, query is in principle the input that comes in from the user. So I want shoes. That's my query. So this query has to be matched to an intent within API.AI or most chatbot systems. And then this intent basically has parameters or entities. So my company dictionary is like products. So let's say shoes, pants, shirts. I need to actually define as an entity. And then the second really important terminology within chatbots is context. Okay, it is very important to understand context. Where is my user at the moment? So basically, you start off your conversation with the chatbot and you say, okay, I want to buy shoes. So then the system needs to remember, okay, in the context, I know now that you want the product shoes. And because of that, I can ask subsequent questions. Okay, so let's say a user saying yes to a chatbot could mean something completely different at the point where the system asks you, do you want to add that to your shopping cart, or just without any previous commands. So here we go. So I'm in API.AI. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a new agent. So to get here, all you need to do is basically down here, click on Create a New Agent, and you get to this screen. And I'm just going to call this one OnAir. Down here, you can select your language as well as your time zone, which I'm going to leave as the default. And you can obviously also already provided sample data. So the sample data that you can provide it here is basically the same as you can find in the pre-built agents here. It's just a starting point. It will basically copy in a few default intents that might help you get started with something like, for example, hotel bookings. We're not going to do this today. We're going to really build it from scratch. So let's go. So that usually takes a couple of seconds. And so as soon as the agent is created, you can see two default intents that are created. So the first one is what is called the default fallback intent. So this will be triggered whenever the agent doesn't understand what you're saying. So we can go in here and change that. So usually down here, you can see that you have like quite a lot of text responses. So this is just to basically give the chatbot more of a human-like experience. So the chatbot will randomly just select one of these responses, just so it doesn't give you the same response every time. But you could obviously adjust that and give it another response. Okay, so let's get started with creating our entities. So entities is your company dictionary. So as I said before, like for example, your products should be displayed as entities. So let's create an entity, and we're just going to call this products. Okay. In this particular case, I'm using a synonym mode. So that allows me to go and say, okay, I want to, for example, have pants, but also trousers mean the same thing. Jeans falls into the same category. So I'm just going to do that. So pants, jeans, trousers. Then I also have shirts, t-shirts, blouse. Then I also have shoes, boots, and I can do dresses, skirts, and so on. And I'm just going to save this. Now I'll hit back to intent, and my first intent that I'm going to create is an information intent. I want more information. So I'm going to call this info. And the first thing that you do when you create an intent is provide examples of what the user might say. So the user might say, I would like shoes. I want some new shoes. Can you list me all the shoes that you have? I'm looking for shoes. Okay, so I'm just going to provide examples here. For your benefit as well, like in API.AI, there's a lot of components in the UI that are a little bit hidden. So for example, you have up here, you have a priority that you can change. So with that, you can change like, the matching of your intent, the threshold that it needs in order to match that intent. Obviously, the higher the priority of an intent is, the more likely it's going to be triggered. Here you also have, with the user examples, you have a mode that's called example mode, which is the one that we are in at the moment. But you can also switch this with, by clicking on it to a what's called a template mode, which is known traditionally as slot filling. For machine learning, and in my experience, it's better to just provide user examples, so just real-world examples, and train the agent on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a few examples. So I'm looking for new shoes. And you can see that it automatically assigns shoes as your entity, as your product, because you used it as an example. So that's great. So I'm also going to provide another example that basically goes, I want trousers. Again, it has actually recognized my product. And I'm going to change this a little bit here now to actually say I want green trousers. Okay, so in this case, I want to also filter out a color in case the user provides it. So I can actually flag this as an entity that's already so there's not only the entities that you provide, which is called developer entities, but there's also already system provided entities. And in the system provided entities, you have a magnitude of options from just this is a number to whole addresses, address recognition, or in this case, I can just see this is a color. So I flag this as a color, and I'm just going to save this. And we can already test our agent. So up here in the right-hand corner, I can actually test my agent straight away while I'm developing it, which is really, really good. So I'm going to say I would like shoes. Yeah. That's the demo gods. Let's try that again. I would like red pants. Okay, so even though I never said in my examples I would like, it knows that I want and I would like is the same thing for the natural language API. It has automatically filtered out the colors for me as well as the product. So in this case, I know I know now that that this user wants more information about red pants. The next thing I'm going to do is I can actually define parameters as required. So a color might not be required, but a product is definitely required. Like I need to know what they want. And I can here define a prompt that basically asks the user if I don't have this particular parameter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to say, which product would you like? Okay. So, and I also want to, like, with the products, go more into like different types. So I'm going to go back into my entities. I need to save this first. Back into my entities. And create a new entity that we're going to call type. And here I'm going to have men's. So this is someone mentions for my boyfriend, boys, yeah, husband, women's, ladies, wife, girlfriend, and then we have kids. Oh, that doesn't help. Kids, boys, girls. And we're going to save this as well. And while we're here in the entities, I just wanted to quickly show you something with the products. So in the products, you can see that we haven't, for example, defined sneakers as a product. So if I go and say I want red sneakers, then you will actually see that it will ask me which product would you like. So it knows the intent that I want, but it doesn't know the product yet, even though I've actually provided it. So I can do two things now. I can actually go into the training mode here and assign sneakers as a product, or I can actually just click here, allow automated expansion. And with that, it will automatically expand this entity to similar terms. So if I now say, and this could be a bit too early, sneakers, I want red sneakers. Yeah, so that hasn't finished yet. So in the background, there's a machine learning that trains this, and we can look at what it actually does. So I've just clicked onto the training icon on the side here, and here I can review like which intents have actually been triggered and what has been assigned. So you can see here that even though it hasn't shown it to me correctly in the test panel, it has actually assigned sneakers as a product. So I can actually here go and approve this. This is very important. Like this approval will actually like trigger off a reinforcement learning process. So especially in the beginning when you're building your chatbot, you need to go in here quite a bit and just like, add examples to intents, but also like, approve what the system is doing to allow it to learn further. Okay, so then we've added the type. Almost lost where I was. So we're back in info, and we're going to add, I would like new shoes for my husband. Okay, so it's already like figured out that I want shoes for my husband. So basically, I'm looking for men's shoes, and I can go down here and can say that this type is also required. And in this particular prompt, what I'm actually going to do is define multiple prompts. So in case I already got the product, I want to feed that back to the end user. So I can say, thanks, I got product. So this is just mentioning back to the user what the user said. Would you like men's women's or kids. Am I misspelling this, or is this just capital? Women's or kids. This is the Austrian background. We have interesting capital. We capitalize every noun. And I can give it a second voice prompt, basically, if it doesn't have the product either. So because it can only use that first voice prompt if it actually has a product. So I can just say thanks. Sorry, I'm asking for the type, so I can just say which type. And let's close this. Okay, so now the conversation flow is already a bit extended. So I can say I would like new shoes, boots for something different. Okay, so I'm in information. And it will tell me here, thanks, I got shoes. Would you like men's, women's, or kids' shoes? So I'm just going to say men's. And it will show me down here the type men's. So I know now red shoes for men's. Cool. So with that, I know everything that I need. So I can actually feed that back to the user as a response. And I can actually say to them, thank you. I got a product for type in color. Okay, or I can do the same thing without the color because the color is an optional parameter and I might not have it. Copy, paste. In type, and I'm asking, would you like to add this to your shopping bag? Here we go. Save it. So good. So and now the idea is here that we build a follow-up intent with the right context. So what I'm going to do now is go back out to intents. And the cool thing with API.AI, it's just the push of a button. You go here, add follow-up intent. You have a few predefined ones already. So I asked the user a question, would you like to add this to your cart? So I can now, like, go and fulfill this for, like, let's say yes. So you can see this now nested under this intent, and it's nested because the info intent now has an outgoing context. So you can see this here as the outgoing context info follow-up with a lifespan of 2. So for the next 2 queries that come in for the user, this context is set. And if the user within the next 2 queries says to me yes, it's going to fall into the follow-up yes intent, which is here. Okay. Under here, you can already see examples of what the user might say to confirm it. So yes, do it, of course, sounds great. And at the bottom, all I have to do is just give it a text response. And that basically says, and I can still use the same, parameters. I can say product edit, or just edit. And that's our chatbot. So now we obviously want to simulate this outside of API.AI with integrations. So to do that, what we can actually do is we go into integrations, and we could now hook this up like very easily with, like, let's say Facebook Messenger, a Slack. We can do web demos. That's just on the API.AI interface, or we can actually integrate it with Google Actions. So let's enable this, and it brings up the settings straight away. And the most important thing here is you want to give it an invocation name. it might actually be beneficial if I quickly run through a couple more slides before we do this. So just going back here. Yeah, so we've built our demo so far. We just need to connect it up with an external messaging platform. And OK, so before we do the connecting, I'm also talking about best practices. That's sort of snuck in between. So important to think about when you create it in your chatbot is think about creating a persona. OK, so you're not. You have a certain brand, you have a certain business. If you're a tech startup, you probably want your chatbot to be like, witty and kind of like a young persona. You don't want it to be like, all professional and dry. So start with a style guide or a bio sketch. Start with like, information about who you want your chatbot to be. Consider context. Like I said, like, the context of saying yes after I ask you, would you want to add this to your cart, is a completely different context than saying yes out of the blue to the chatbot without any previous conversations. But there's obviously other contexts as well. Like, you want to maybe consider like which country does this user come from. You want to also consider like their behavior. Like you want to. You want to consider what time of the day it is. You want to consider like what they're doing, what their profession is, their gender maybe, their age. So Google has actually put an example style guide together for this, and a lot of assets that help you design this conversational engine. So I really recommend strongly that you go to this link. So. To the g.co dev actions checklist. In here you find a checklist with all the items that you should go through to design a chatbot. So another best practice is to make sure that you're using rich interactions. So if your chatbot only allows for follow-up intents of like yes or no, sometimes it's just as easy to give the user in a text scenario, so when you're looking at a messenger, not a voice command one, to actually give it buttons straight away they can click on instead of actually having to spell out the words. You also don't have to pretend that you're a real person. Sometimes it's completely fine to actually have the system respond to you. So in this case, there is a chatbot for Salesforce. So I can actually chat with the Salesforce, the system, and actually say, oh, can you book me a meeting for tomorrow afternoon with this and this customer, and then get options back to actually finish that flow. Trello has done a very similar thing for project management, as you can see here. And now we're finally going into the area where we're integrating our chatbot with an external messaging like Google Assistant. So you've probably heard of Google Assistant before. So Google Assistant allows you with Allo and other devices to give commands straight to the Google products. So you can say to Google, and I'm going to test how many of you have your phone next to you. OK, Google, give me more information about the Whopper. Or I can say, go to YouTube and search for a certain video. Or, OK, Google, give me directions somewhere else. The good thing is, so from a terminology perspective, you have the Google Assistant, which is the tool, the framework that you can build your actions on. So an action can be provided by Google already. So these are the actions that I just mentioned. But you can build your own actions as well. So you can extend this framework. You can provide your the actions from your business back to the Google Assistant. You can, if you are like a fridge manufacturer, you can actually provide your fridge actions back to Google and allow these commands to be available for the general public. And then you have the devices like Google Home or Pixel or Google Allo as a software a solution to execute these assistant programs. So Google Home allows you to do things like, you're cooking and you have your hands dirty, and you can just go, OK, Google, can you play me the Sunday Blues playlist? And it will do that for you. So just when we're talking about the life of a conversation, it's very important to remember what happens where when you build this. So as the user, I might go and say, and I have to invoke an invocation. So I have to give my agent a name on Google. I always recommend to give them real names. I've seen like lots of chatbots that are called like Conference XYZ in 2016. Now this is a really hard thing to say for an end user to go like, okay, Google, I want to talk to Conference XYZ 2017. So give them real names. So in this case, we're going to call, I don't know what we're going to call our chatbot in a second, but in this case, it's Lisa. So I go and say, okay, Google, let's talk to Lisa. So what happens there is the Google Home device will actually just send that speech to Google Assistant. And Google Assistant will then do the speech to text, the NLP, and then pass it on to API. Well, it gives me a confirmation, and then we'll pass that on to API.AI. So it will invoke the action package. So from there on, I'm talking straight to API.AI, and Google Assistant is just a facilitator. API.AI is going to welcome me. I'm going to talk to it and fulfill my intent or do anything that I need to. And in the background, I have GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, in order to help me with fulfillment. So let's test this. Let's actually do this. OK, so we need an invocation name. I've been running out of names lately, so let's call this one Megan. And go preview. OK, so my preview is published, and it tells me to go to Google Home Web Simulator, which I've already got open here. Just going to refresh that page. I'm going to start this here. Just going to authenticate me. And I should see my action package here now. So I can see that Megan has been published in preview mode. I can test her here now. I can say, talk to Megan. And this is the test version of Megan. And here is where I can now test my new shoes. And all this flow. So once this works in the web simulator, let's actually test this on an actual device. So here's where I brought my Google Home. And it's been on mute so far. And now it's going to start talking to me. So I've tested this a few times, but it's a bit tricky when I'm trying to talk to you and to Google Home at the same time. So bear with me.
The mic's back on.
OK, Google, let me talk to Megan.
Sure, here is the test version of Megan.
Greetings.
Oh, Megan actually has the wrong.
The mic is muted.
Megan actually has a male voice, so I'm just going to jump back in and change that because that's really throwing me. So I'm going to make her female.
The mic's back on.
Cancel. OK, Google, let me talk to Megan.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that.
OK, Google, talk to Megan.
OK, you have my full attention.
I want new shoes. OK, Google, let me talk to Megan.
Sure, here is the test version of Megan. Good day.
I want new shoes.
Thanks, I got shoes. Would you like men's, women's, or kids?
Kids.
Thank you, I got a shoes for kids. Would you like to add this to your shopping bag?
Yes, please.
Added. The mic is muted.
So Megan is actually really dry and boring at the moment, so I'm just going to make her a little bit more exciting. So down here in API.AI, we also have a small talk option that you can just easily, on the flick of a button, like enable. So I'm just going to enable and save that. You can obviously like adjust like what the responses of the agents. Like we have a lot of like default responses in here, but you can go in detail in there and define about the agents things like if you ask them how old are you, what do you do for a job, like you can all adjust it to your persona.
The mic's back on.
Okay, Google, can I talk to Megan?
I missed that.
Talk to Megan.
I missed that.
The mic is muted.
I think I'll leave it there. It's my Austrian accent, but yeah. So from here on, I only have a couple more slides that I'm just going to quickly bring up. So I'm done in a second. So we've gone through this. So just as a recap, the last thing that you have to do, so once you're happy with your agent and it works on your test device, then you can actually go for a review and approval process with Google that's available in the console. And with that, you make it available for the general public. As a summary, I just want to recap the key takeaways. So you can and you should extend actions on the Google Assistant. You can easily build them in API.AI. And GCP is a really good platform for fulfillment. Definitely check out this design guide and this link to build your bot. And with that, I thank you for joining, and I'll open the session for Q&A. I think we're back in about 5 seconds, 10 seconds for Q&A.
Well,
Hey,
KJ, hey, that was such a fantastic session. So that was completely action-packed, and I was on the edge of my seat there. Great cameo there from Megan as well. Although,
Yeah, she didn't cooperate all the time, but most of the time.
yeah. So I think that was a good effort there. So I think that was a fantastic session. So not only did you cover off a lot of the machine learning products, a great deep dive into the API.AI conversational engine as well. So I think the best practices were really fantastic in terms of like, what to do and what not to do in terms of building a chatbot. We've got some great questions from the audience, actually.
Oh, cool.
And I've sort of handpicked the best questions, and maybe we'll just jump into some of that, and
Yeah,
we'll see
sounds
how we
good.
go
Let's
for
do
timing. Okay, great. So the first one is API.AI and whether we can support ecosystems outside of Google or Google Machine Learning Services or Google Cloud. So there are services like Cortana and Alexa as well, obviously. So how well do these services like API.AI work with those sort of systems?
Okay, so there's a lot of like pre-built integrations available already, and so they like especially like Cortana and Alexa. I mean, now that API.AI has been acquired by Google, there's heaps of questions about it. But the messaging is no, we will further support them, fully support them. All of these integrations are also, or at least the ones that I've seen, they're all open sourced. So you can actually take them and build on top of them if there's functionality missing. So yeah, I can assure you that this will be further supported.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's move on to the next question. So how can I make my agents and actions available to other people? So I guess chatbots are meant to be shared and interactive. So how can I basically, as a developer, make my agents available for other people to use?
Yeah, so I guess it's a good idea to look into the guidelines, the design guidelines for chatbots already, because the review process by Google, it's not very complicated, but I think if you're keeping in mind already when you're building it, what the approval process will look like, that makes it a lot easier for you. So yes, ultimately, of course, like, if you make your actions available, they will be available for anyone. So we do want to make sure that these are the right actions to be taken. And yeah, so this is why we have an approval process.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I think this one's going to be quite interesting. So API.AI, there's a large focus on that topic within your presentation, and you also covered a breadth of different machine learning services as well, covering like things like vision and video and natural language processing. But what if I want to basically say build other models? So I want to train my own neural network for like classification of different things. What's the best service for that? Should I be using API.AI, or are there other things I should be looking at for that sort of purpose?
Yeah, so I mean, API.AI is mainly a configuration platform on top of the NLP API. With machine learning, and it builds obviously like machine learning models that understand like your user's context and your domain. However, API.AI is specifically built for chatbots, and for other systems you probably want to look into like taking an existing model, and in TensorFlow, for example, you could just retrain the last few models. Like if you look at the vision API, for example, there's been like a lot of use cases where the Inception model from TensorFlow is just reused and retrained in order to do vision recognition or like label detection for your products as well, or items that are not available in the general public.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, last question, KJ. So do any of these APIs require special resources and hardware like GPUs, for instance? So I know that in terms of accelerated hardware for machine learning applications, GPUs are obviously something that's quite front of mind in terms of those sort of applications. So what do I actually need in terms of building these machine learning services, and do I need to basically provision things like GPUs or special hardware?
Yeah, so for these ready-made machine learning services, so the APIs that we spoke about today, you really need nothing. They're already provisioned, so it's a REST API service that you can readily use. If you wanted to build your own machine learning models, then you can use CloudML, which is a fully managed TensorFlow environment for you. And on there, you can just basically choose, like, do you want it on CPUs, GPUs? I guess it depends how much data you really have. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I absolutely think that's the right approach there.
Yeah.
And the managed services, I think, actually allows you to do away with not just the infrastructure complexity of building systems to host like your own machine learning models, but provides you these capabilities as a managed service. And also, you really leverage the capabilities that we've built out over the years for building our own services, like Google Photos, for instance, and Vision API. There's a big relationship there in terms of the capabilities that we've had to develop in-house to deliver world-class services like that. So you're really kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, I think, in terms of leveraging some of those things. And the nice thing is, you don't need to be a machine learning expert to be able to leverage some of those capabilities. But if you were able to, or if you actually needed to actually use GPUs, that's also available on the platform as well. So you had that power on tap if you actually needed that sort of processing power, either on single machines or building out large clusters of GPUs. That capability is absolutely available in the platform as well. But that's probably not the first step if you were to start off with machine learning, right?
Probably not.
But
no.
Once you actually get there, the GPUs in scale, as well as all the infrastructure and everything, that's all available on the platform as well.
Yeah. Sounds good. I think with that, we are finished for today. I'm just going to quickly jump back to our thank you slide to make sure that you know what the next steps are. Definitely get certified. I think it's a big advantage to be certified on the GCP platform. There's heaps of courses available on Coursera or Quick Labs. Get in touch with us if you have any more detailed questions, and make use of the free trial. Thank you so much.